Hello and welcome to the next edition of the Hewlett-Packard Enterprise Voice of the Customer podcast series. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host and moderator for this ongoing discussion on digital business innovation and how it's making an impact on people's lives. Our next cloud computing innovation and transformation discussion explores how regional cloud services providers are assembling partner ecosystems to add more customization to cloud procurement. We'll learn how integrations of the latest cloud tools and methods help smooth out the difficult task of creating and maintaining cloud infrastructure services contracts. The results are more flexible digital services that both save cloud consumers money and provide the proper service levels and performance characteristics for each unique enterprise. Stay with us now as we hear from a Tasmanian digital services provider, TasmaNet, about their solution-level approach to cloud services attainment, especially for mid-market enterprises. Here to share how proper cloud procurement leads to new digital business innovations, we're joined by Joel Harris, Managing Director of TasmaNet in Hobart, Tasmania. Welcome, Joel.
Good morning, Dana. How are you?
I'm very well. We're delighted to have you with us.
Thank you very much, and it's excellent to be here.
Yeah, let's start at sort of a high level, looking at sort of the trends that are driving how cloud services are affecting how procurement is going to be done going into 2017. What's changed, in your opinion, in how enterprises are reacting to and leveraging cloud services nowadays?
Sure. Thanks, Dana. So we're seeing a real shift in markets, particularly with the SME in their approach and adoption of cloud services. More and more there is an acceptance that it is okay to buy products off the internet. We see it now every day within personal cloud, within our iPhones and things like that, with the Apple Store, Google Play for buying movies. And so there is now becoming a very different approach in the workplace that it is acceptable to procure business services online through cloud providers. Now, because of the success of personal cloud with companies like Apple, there is a carryover that there is a assumed equivalent success in in the commercial sense. And unfortunately, that can cause some problems. But what we are seeing is a willingness to start procuring from public and also some levels of private cloud as well, which is good, which is really good. But I think that what we're finding is there is a lack of awareness, though, about what it means to buy from a cloud provider, from businesses.
What is it that people might have wrong? What is it that they've not seen in terms of where the real basis for value comes when you create a cloud relationship?
If we look at how people are buying cloud contracts and we look at the way personal cloud is procured, a simple click, simple install, you use the application. If you don't like it, you can then remove the application, delete it. When you come into a commercial environment, though, it's not that simple, although there can be a perception that it's that simple. So when you're looking at your application, the glossy picture may talk about functionality, it may talk about business improvement, it might talk about future savings and things like that. And so, but when you come to the implementation of a cloud product or a cloud service into a business, the business needs to make sure that it has linked its service levels from internal business requirements or external business requirements from customers and markets and things like that, but also make sure that it has also married up the skills of its workforce. Cloud services are really just a tool for a business to achieve an outcome. And so you're either arming someone in the workforce with a tool and skills to achieve an outcome, or you're going to use a service from a third party to achieve an outcome. Now, I think that because of we're still very early in the days of cloud being adopted so easily by small to medium-sized business, that I think the amount of work being put into the marrying up of the capabilities of a product or the dreamed capabilities of a product or future benefits to internal business processes and systems is probably not as mature as we would like. And certainly if you look into the marketplace, the availability of partners and skills to help companies with this is also probably lacking at the moment. Then comes the last part we talked about, which is, the removal, or say you want to change it. At the moment, a lot of small to medium-sized businesses are still using traditional procurement. Go out for tender, I want a white car. Well, in cloud services, there's always the ability to change the colour, but it does come at a cost. It's, traditionally a variation fee or something like that. And so small to medium-sized businesses are getting themselves in a bit of trouble when they're going in and saying, yes, I would like a white car with 4 seats, that's great. And then later on finding, we actually needed 5 seats and a utility. How do we go about changing that? Now, the cost of change is something that sometimes gets forgotten in these scenarios. And that's probably been our experience over the last 2 years, is the oversight of the cost of change when under a cloud services contract.
Now, I've also heard you say, Joel, that cloud isn't for everyone. What do you mean by that? How would a company know whether cloud is the right fit for it or not?
Sure. We simply look for real deep understanding of your business. Coming back to the ability to link up service levels, the ability to have a clear view into the future of what a company needs to achieve its outcomes. If you can't answer those questions for your customer, or the customer can answer the questions for you as a cloud provider, then I would advise to take a step back and really start a new process of understanding what it is the customer wants out of the cloud product. Because change later on, as we talked about just before, can cost. And small businesses don't have an infinite amount of money to go in there and continue funding a third party to change the implementation of what in most cases becomes a core piece of software in an organisation.
For your organizations that you work with that are exploring a deeper relationship to private cloud, do you find that they're thinking of the future direction as well, or thinking out the strategy that they'd like to go hybrid and ultimately perhaps more public cloud? Is that the common view for those that are ready for cloud now?
So in the enterprise, yes, we're definitely seeing a huge push to organisations that understand the breakdown of applications between suitable for private cloud and suitable for public cloud. As you come down into the more SMB market, that line blurs a little bit. You have some companies that wish to put everything in the cloud because it's easy and that's the advice they were given. Or you have people that think they have everything in the cloud, but it's really a systems integrator that's now taken their servers and put it in a data center and is managing them it's more of a hosted managed solution. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is a lot of companies don't know the difference between moving into the cloud and just having a systems integrator manage their hardware for them in a data center where they don't see it. There's definitely a large appetite, though, for moving to the as-a-service model in companies that have a C-suite or some level of senior management with ownership of business process. So if there is a CIO or a CTO or some sort of very senior IT person that has a business focus, not so much a technology focus, but a business focus on the use of technology, we're seeing a very strong review of what the company does and why, and how things should be moved to either hybrid or 100% in either direction.
So clearly the choices you make around cloud affect the choices you make as a business, that there's really a transformational aspect to this. Therefore, the contract, that decision document of how you proceed with your cloud relationship is not just an IT document, it's really a business document. Tell us a little bit about why getting the contract right is so important.
Absolutely. Very, very important to involve all the areas of a business when going into a cloud services contract. And
it's no longer really one relationship. That's to say, a contract isn't often just between one party and another. As we are finding, this is an ecosystem, a team sport, if you will. How does the contract incorporate the need for an ecosystem, and how does TasmaNet perhaps help solve that relationship among multiple parties problem?
Good question. So traditionally, if we look at the procurement department of a company, procurement department would go out to tender, negotiate a contract between the supplier and the company, and then services would begin to flow, or whatever the product was purchased would be delivered. More and more, though, with the cloud services contract, the procurement department has little knowledge of the value of the information or the transaction that's happening between the company and supplier. And that can be quite dangerous. Even though cloud can be seen as a commodity item, the value of the services that comes over the top is very much not a commodity item. It's actually a high-value thing that, in most cases, is something relevant to keeping the company operating. So what we've done, what we found at TasmaNet was that a lot of the companies moving to cloud don't have the tools to actually manage the contract. They're familiar with very traditional procurement arrangements, but managing a services contract or a cloud services contract, if we want to get into focus down into what TasmaNet provides, is you need to know a number of different aspects. So what we did is we created an ecosystem, and we said, you know what, we're going to create this ecosystem with all of the tools required for our customers. So we put in there a portal so that the finance manager can look at, the financial performance of the services. Does it meet within budget expectations? Is it behaving correctly? Are we achieving the business outcomes for the dollars that we said it was going to cost? Then on the other side, we have a different portal that's more for the technology administrator about ensuring that the system is performing within the SLAs that have been documented by either between the company and the service provider or the IT department and the internal business units. It's important to understand there's probably going to be multiple service levels here, not only between the service provider and the customer, but then also the customer and their internal customers. So it's important to make sure that they're managed all the way through. And so we provide a platform so that people can monitor end-to-end from the customer using all the way through to the financial end of the other side.
Yes, we've seen the importance of the contract. We understand that this is a complex transaction that can involve multiple players. But I think there's also another shift when we move from a traditional IT environment to a cloud environment and then ultimately to a hybrid cloud environment, and that's around skills. What are you seeing that might be some dissonance between what was the skill set before and what we can expect the new skill set for cloud computing success to be?
Yeah, we are seeing a huge change, and sometimes this change is very difficult for people involved to pick up. We see that with cloud services coming along, the nature of the tool is changing. A lot of people traditionally have been trained in, say, a single skill set, storage or virtualization, whereas once you start to bring in cloud services, you're actually bundling a whole bunch of individual tools and infrastructure together to become one. And all of a sudden that worker or that individual now has a tool that is made up of an ecosystem of tools. And so, therefore, their understanding of those different tools and how they report on it and things like that changes. So what we see is a change from people doing to controlling. We might see a lot of planning to try and avoid events rather than responding to events. It really does change the ecosystem in your workforce, and it's probably one of the biggest areas that we see risk come out of when people are moving to a cloud services contract.
Is there something also in the realm of digital services rather than just technology, that larger category of digital services, business-focused outcomes? Is that another thing that we need to take into consideration as organizations are thinking about the right way to transform themselves to be for and by the cloud?
I think it comes back to a business really understanding itself, being able to put a circle around something and say that's a process, or that is something we could buy from someone else, and we know how important it is to the company, we know what it costs the company, and we know the service levels needed around that particular function. Therefore, we can put it out to the market to evaluate, should we be looking to buy this as a digital service? Should we be looking to outsource the process? Or should we be looking to have it internally on our own infrastructure and continue running it for whatever reason? Those questions and the fact-finding that goes into that at the moment is one of the most important things I can ever encourage a customer looking at cloud services to spend a lot of time on. It's actually one of the key reasons why we have such a strong partnership with HPE, was while the hardware and the infrastructure is so strong and good, the skill sets and the programs that we can access to work with our customers to pull out information and put it up into things like enterprise maps to understand what the landscape looks like in a customer is just as important as the infrastructure itself.
So the customer needs to know themselves and see how they fit into these new patterns of business. But as you're a technologist, you also have to have a great deal of visibility into what's going on within your systems, whether they're on your premises, within a public-private cloud continuum of some kind. Tell me a little bit about the TasmaNet approach and perhaps how you're using Hewlett-Packard Enterprise products and solutions to gain that visibility, to know yourself even as you're transforming.
Sure. So a couple of the functions that we use with HPE, they've got a very good skill set called Aurora, where they can sit down with us and work through the total cost of ownership for an organisation. And that's not just at an IT level, that's actually come in almost forensic and work with the accounting team to look at the total cost from the electricity through to human resources, third-party contractors, infrastructure and things like that. That gives us a very good baseline and understanding of, well, this is how much it costs today, which is really important that people understand how much does it cost today. Then we also have other capabilities where we work with HPEs, then to model that data about the what if, which is very important to have that capability when working with a third party on understanding should you move to cloud. There is no immediate right or wrong answer. And if you think you've got the right answer first up, I would encourage anyone to keep looking, because modelling about the different types of ways you can procure products, the different types of services and the different ways you can migrate are so ever-changing and also complex that you need to make sure that you work with people like TasmaNet and use the tools provided by people like HPE to really understand those.
Now, your comments right there, Joel, bring me back to a better understanding of why a static contract really might be a shackle on your ability to innovate. So how do you recognize that you need to know what you don't know going into cloud, and therefore put in place the ability to react in some sort of a short-term basis, iterate? What kind of contract allows for that dynamic ability to change? How do you begin to think about a contract as not static?
Yeah, we don't know the answer yet. We're doing a lot of work with our current customers. We're doing a lot of work with HPE to look at that. Some of the early options we're looking at is by ensuring when we work and create a master services agreement with a company, even for something that may be considered commodity, we ensure that we put in agreed plans around innovation. We put in agreed plans around risk management framework, agreed plans around continual service improvement, so that there is a conduit for information to flow between the two parties around business information that can then feed into the use of the services that we're providing. I think we've still got a long way to go on that, because there's a certain maturity required around it, because it's very, we're essentially becoming a part of another company. And that's difficult for people to swallow, even though they accept using a cloud services contract is what they want to do. We're essentially saying, can we have a key to your data center or your physical front door of your office? Now, if that's confronting for someone, well, it should be equally confronting that they're moving to cloud, because we need access to those physical environments, the people face-to-face, the business plans, the innovation plan, how they manage risk, to ensure that there is a successful adoption of cloud today, but also going forward.
Yeah, clearly the destiny of you and your clients is closely tied together. You need to make them successful. They need to let you show them the tools and the new flexible nature, and you need to then rely on HPE to give you the means to create those dashboards and have that visibility. It really is a different kind of relationship, codependence, you might say.
It really is. One of the, I think, strengths that TasmaNet will have going forward is the fact that we are operating under a decentralized model. We're a cloud provider, but we work with people, with HPE, so that we can have a workforce on the ground closer to the customer. We believe that the model of having all of your cloud services in one location, 1,000 kilometres away from the customer, while technically capable, we don't believe it's the right mix in client-supplier relationship. We need to make sure that physically there are people on the ground to work hand in hand with business owners, the business management and people like that, to ensure we have a successful outcome. That's one of our strong key parts to the relationship between HPE and TasmaNet. Starting in November of this year, so today, HPE and TasmaNet are now a certified services provider with HPE, which lets us use their workforce anywhere around Australia to work with companies that want to utilise TasmaNet services, so that we can play this really close role in ensuring that we get the outcome everyone wants.
Mm-hmm. And help our readers and listeners understand that your regional reach is primarily in Tasmania, but you're also into Australia, and you have some designs and plans for even a larger expansion. Tell us a little bit about your roadmap.
Absolutely. So over the last few years, we've really been spending time gathering information from a couple of early contracts to understand the relationship between a cloud provider and a customer. We've now, in the last 6 months, put that into a product that we actually call Core. So it's TasmaNet Core, which is our new ecosystem for delivering digital services. Over the next 18 months, we're working with some very large contracts that we've won down here in Tasmania, having just signed whole of government for the state government down here. We certainly have a number of opportunities and pathways to start deploying services and working with the state government on how cloud can deliver better business outcomes for them. Over the next 18 months, we need to make sure we really understand and document clearly how we achieve success here in Tasmania. Then our plan is, as a company, to push this out to national. There's a lot of regional places throughout Australia that require cloud services. And more, if companies like TasmaNet will push out into those regional areas. We think it's important that they don't get forgotten. And we also think that any business that can be developed in Tasmania and operate successfully, it has no reason why it can't be replicated to regional areas around Asia Pacific as required.
Well, great. Joe, let's step back a moment and look at how to show rather than tell what we mean by the new era of cloud, proper cloud adoption. Do you have any examples, either named or generic, where we could look at how this is unfolded and what the business benefits have been when it's done well?
So at the moment we have one of our customers who about 3 years ago he moved into a cloud services environment, which was very successful for the company. But what we found was some of the contracts with their services, their software services, while the contract enabled them to move into a cloud provider, it added a level of complexity that made the platform very difficult to manage ongoing. And so over a number of years, we actually worked with them to then move that key application back out of the cloud environment. And I think that's really important, that as a cloud provider, you understand what's right for the customer. And at the end of the day, if there is something that's not working for the customer, you must work with them to get resolved. Now, that's what we did here, and it's worked out very successful. We have a very strong relationship with the company. The company is a local company down here called TT Line, operates some boat vessels for shipping between Tasmania and the mainland Australia. And this company was able to, because of the platform we had, find the right mix. And I think that's really, really important. And I know HPE uses it as a catchphrase, but this is a real-world example of where it's really important to find the right mix between putting your workloads in the appropriate place. It has to work both ways. It's easy to come into a cloud provider. We need to make sure it's easy also to step back out as well if it doesn't work. So we do have some more stories, I guess, like that have a very successful outcome. And now we're working with that company to really deeply understand the rest of the business, to see what are the workloads that can come over to TasmaNet and what are the workloads that need to either move internally or actually move to an application-specific hosting environment.
Well, great. Before we close out, Joel, I'd like to look a bit to the future. We spoke earlier about how private cloud and adjusting your business appropriately to the hosting models that we've described is a huge step. But, of course, the continuum is beyond that. It goes to hybrid. There's public cloud options. There's data placement and privacy concerns that people are adjusting to in terms of location of data, jurisdictions, and so forth. Tell me a little bit about where you see it going and how an organization like yours adjusts to companies as they start to further explore that hybrid cloud continuum.
I think the network going forward will play probably one of the biggest roles in cloud services in the coming 10 years. More and more we're seeing software-defined network suppliers into the marketplace. In Australia, we have a large data center owner, NextDC, has started up their own network to connect all of their data centers. We have Megaport, which is 100% software-defined, where you can by capacity for up to one hour or long term. As these types of networks become more and more common, it enables more and more of a fluid movement of the services on top. Now, when we start to cross over two of the other really big things happening, which are Internet of Things and 5G, you're all of a sudden having this connectivity that means data services can be delivered anywhere, which has a flow-on effect to mean cloud services can be delivered anywhere. So I think more and more you're going to see the collection, data lakes, the collection of information, even by small businesses that are going to understand, keep the data, keep the information, analyze it, look forward, because as network functionality grows around the world, the power of gathering information and then looking at it to say, what do I need? And then going to the market and saying to cloud providers, this is what I need because I just went and gathered all of this information, will become very, very powerful. So I think in the short term, network is going to be the key enabler for things like Internet of Things, which will then flow on to support a distributed model for cloud providers over the next 10 years, whereas traditionally we've seen them centralised into some key larger cities. I think that'll change over the coming years as there's just too much data to centralise as people start gathering all of this information.
Well, I look forward to circling back and talking with you, Joel, in a year or two to see how that works, that decentralization concept. I think that you're right. It's a huge new departure. It can be extremely powerful. So I'm afraid we'll have to leave it there. We've been discussing how regional cloud services providers are assembling partner ecosystems to add more customization to private cloud procurement. And we've heard how ecosystem-level integrations of the latest cloud tools and methods help smooth out the difficult task of creating and maintaining cloud infrastructure services contracts. So please join me now in thanking our guest. We've been here with Joel Harris, Managing Director of TasmaNet in Hobart, Tasmania. Thank you, Joel.
Thank you very much, Dana.
And I'd like to thank our audience as well for joining us for this Hewlett-Packard Enterprise's Voice of the Customer Digital Business Innovation discussion. I'm Dana Gardner, Principal Analyst at Inter Arbor Solutions, your host and moderator for this ongoing series of HPE-sponsored discussions. Thanks again for listening, and do come back next time.